Welcome to IC West 2019. My name is Paul Ragusa. I'm the editor of Security Systems News. I'm very excited to have Pierre Bourgeix. He is the president of ESIConvergent. He also does some consulting with Boon, Edam. Hey Pierre, it's good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit before about your session that you had this morning. It sounded like a really good session. What are some of the things, the takeaways from that session?
Yeah, so the session was specifically around smart buildings, smart cities, and the converged approach.
Yeah.
You know, how we're converging all this technology and how we're using it for, you know, purpose-built business opportunities, right? How do we get to the point where all these technologies are really being driven to help those businesses and also help safety and security as a whole? So, you know, using a camera just for security today, well, it doesn't get as much attention as if you were using that camera for line production or safety, security, HR requirements, et cetera, and compliance. So really the reality is that with all this incredible technology we see on the show floor today, the most important thing is that as we're driving towards apps and APIs and cloud-based solutions, we have to ensure that those solutions are really being able to help each other from the business perspective and in the silos of the business, because in many cases a lot of those technologies or a lot of those apps are being used in different parts of the business, sometimes creating more problems than actually helping the business because of breaches in security, especially on the cyber side. And
what kind of reaction are you seeing from some of these, like we'll call them end users, who, you know, maybe do have some siloed things going on in their company? How do you kind of make them understand that there's some opportunities there that they're missing out on?
So there's
a converged approach.
That's a great question as well, because what we're seeing is many of the businesses we're speaking to, they really are starting to realize that, you know, as we're advancing into the technology areas and we are converging from an IT and operational technology and physical security space, they have to start putting into the process governance, policy procedures, understanding how everything's interconnected.
Right.
So it's really business processes that are really critical, because how are you going to explain to an executive why you're buying 1,000 cameras? In the old days, we could say, well, it's just the way it has to be because we have to create a detection strategy.
Right, it's security, yeah.
It's security. Today, it's not the question. Most executives are looking and says, why? Why are we spending this amount of money? And what are we using them for specifically?
Right.
So the reality is that you have to be well armed, right? And so organizations are starting to realize, I can't just go to the well on the facility side or the security side and say, I need something. I have to get a reason for it, and I have to use a reason. Now, many people will say it's an ROI that you're looking for. I don't think so. I think it's purpose-built technology. You have to look for that purpose-built technology. It really makes it manageable and more efficient.
And I think bringing more stakeholders into the conversation in a company, instead of, like you said, speaking just security or speaking to just the HR, but bringing the right people to the table, you're going to have much better opportunity to get the money that they need, the backing, right, the support. Correct. To go forward with something like that.
So a perfect example, so if you're in an entry situation and you know, you're just talking a door, you really are one-dimensional at that point. But if you start talking about how it touches different parts and different people in the business, say it's HR, say, you know, we're talking about, you know, dealing with mass evacuation, safety. Yeah. You know, we're looking mustering, we're looking at different issues in regards to compliance and ensuring that we have an unauthorized entry detected. These are all things that are really critical, but if it's just a discussion with facilities and really a discussion in regards to an architectural issue or design issue, it's a one-dimensional conversation. Yeah. You're usually not going to get a lot of attention. So the critical thing is to bring the stakeholders together. And this was done in the IT world later on in its career as being, you know, cybersecurity or cyber sensitive. Yeah. Is that we saw that happening, you know, maybe about 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, that started happening. So we are way advanced now, you know, at a point where technology has far surpassed our ability to install or integrate. So if we're not understanding where it fits and how it fits and who it touches, and what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly, right.
It makes it difficult.
Yeah, and I always like to ask you this question because it's one of those questions that really, it's an evolution in how you're going to answer it, but the whole one pane of glass discussion, can we get there? How far are we from it? What are some of the obstacles there to get to that one pane of glass that we...
So here's my thought on this. There are some companies that have brought many different concepts to bringing that metadata to that one pane of glass. Now I believe there's 5 major issues we have to resolve if we're going to get there.
Okay.
Secure communication,
Yep.
secured identity, secured entry, secured cloud and storage,
Absolutely.
and AI.
Yeah.
And what that means is deep learning and machine learning, because frankly, AI doesn't exist yet.
Good point.
We have never been able to master AI because we can't control it. So therefore, really, it's about the mastery of machine learning and using that deep learning to effectively get us to take all of that first 5 subject matters or 4 subject matters into a pane of glass. Then taking all the applicable devices, being video, access control, sensors, et cetera, and being able to pull the metadata and be able to make it useful as we said, purpose-built solutions for the business and for the operation.
And you brought up the that nasty 2-letter acronym AI. What? Well, give me the skinny on AI.
Well, here's where we have to be cautious here. I think our industry is rushing very fast, and marketing plays a role in that.
It's very exciting.
We're not going to. It is exciting, but unfortunately, what ends up happening is we have a lot of confusion at the end.
Yeah.
So when we call AI 2 functional solutions that are being able to be done in a product, that's really not AI. Okay, AI is the ability for that intelligence to actually begin thinking on its own.
Yeah.
To being able to actually create either code, develop ideas, present solutions, not just manipulate information and metrics to actually create a concept based upon the specific rules you've given it, right?
Right.
Because
which is
it creates
machine learning,
which is, I agree.
Yeah.
So even IBM in the day, really that was machine learning and deep learning that was created, which is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Great marketing, but be careful. I think our whole industry needs to start being careful with that, because I think we kind of brought in convergence too early, and we started saying it was IT and physical only. Well, today we're realizing when we say convergence, many people say, well, that's just IT and physical. It's really not. It is convergence of all technologies to create enough metadata to position a potential result. And it's not that simple.
And it's a little scary too.
It is a little scary.
Like you said, AI thinks on its own.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it starts to feed you things, but that could also get a little scary.
So the issue basically is, remember one thing, AI, at the end of the day, has no use for a human being.
Yeah, right.
It inevitably looks at the most simple thing to fix, and it doesn't, based on what it needs.
Right.
So the reality is we have to be cautious with that. The other part of that is, I believe we are headed in a great direction in terms of use of data. I think that we have to be concerned with privacy and how we use data appropriately, and at the same time, how we regulate that.
Yeah.
And creating the converged standard, as we talked about before, which is moving towards finally adoption. In some of these cases, we've been seeing it in corporations now being adapted. I think that we'll find that NIST has to change. There's a push towards FISMA.
Yeah.
All of these organizations that really need to really embrace convergence. And that's really important.
Yeah.
And that's really a big part of the smart cities and smart buildings world.
Yeah, and those are great points. And I want to end on this one because I know you know a lot about this. Cloud. How is cloud playing to all this?
So it's a double-edged sword. Cloud is our greatest ally and our worst nightmare, because when not used appropriately, it becomes in effect a threat within an organization. Because unless you secure the cloud environment, and saying that you're using AWS is not what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
AWS knows what they're doing.
Sure.
Azure knows. It's the question of how you are using that AI, that app in that cloud. It's how you use that cloud and how secure that correlation to what you're doing with it and how you're connecting to it. So really having a cloud strategy as a corporation, and even if you're using a third party, is really critical, because we know there's a private cloud, there's a third-party cloud, there's we can do a nice way of seeing it is, I believe, the larger corporations are balancing it. They know that I have to control certain things and certain things I don't have to control.
So like a hybrid type of
hybrid
solution.
model. And I think that most organizations who really are effectively using cloud are doing that, and I think that that's really the most healthy way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But frankly, anything, and if I can give you one recommendation to everyone listening, have policies and procedures that are well structured around governance in your corporation.
Yeah.
Allow the correlation between people, the use of policy and procedures to enact technology.
Absolutely.
Go through the process of understanding what your current state is. Evaluate it. Get to your desired state. Don't end up in a tactical loop that keeps on getting you down to a deteriorated state and never getting you to where you want to go as an organization.
Those are great points, then. Thank you, Pierre. It's always great talking
Very
with you.
welcome. It was great.